Welcome to GlassRoots Virtual Studios. My name is Kate Dowd, and on normal days you can find me at the studio at GlassRoots in Newark, New Jersey. GlassRoots is a glass art studio in Newark, New Jersey, whose mission is to ignite and build the creative and economic vitality of our community, especially for youth and young adults, through the transformative power of the glass arts experience. Since you can't visit our studio at this time, each week we're bringing you activities on our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and YouTube. We're doing lectures, demonstrations, artist talks, a whole bunch of really amazing things that you can watch and interact with. To learn more, you can join our mailing list by emailing info@glassroots.org or visiting our website, www.glassroots.org. I want to add that we at GlassRoots want to acknowledge what is going on in our country right now. At GlassRoots, we intend to keep making our art in support of our community and social justice, to hold programs that create economic opportunity, to tell our students that they can be agents of change, to open their eyes to opportunities, to rise up and fully embrace their potential. Today, you can see Jason's here, and we are going to share with you what we did in the Hotshop last week. And part of what it's going to be similar to like the You Design It, We Make It, but more like in the commission sense. A person came to us and said they wanted, or could we make a bird bath? So they sent us images of bird baths. We talked about it and designed it. And then you give a quote, and then we make the piece and share it with them. So we have this video put together that I'll start to play, and we'll start talking about that. I'm going to share my screen. And let me go to the video. So here's an image of some of the images that we were shared with the person who wanted it. It was blown glass pieces. Maybe it was going to be wavy. The person liked that it was blue and these kind of swirling colors, maybe more on the aqua color range and less cobalt with some purple flecks in there, and maybe some green elements and some teal. But this is just kind of the inspiration, and that the dimensions of the piece, they wanted it to be around 18 inches in diameter, and that they would be then including that, like it'll be installed on top of a stump that they have in their yard. So talking with Jason, we kind of were like, oh, well, let's do a stuffed cup. We'll use Frit. We'll use these colors. So that's kind of be what we're demonstrating here. We'll make a cup. That's what we're doing right now. And for those of you who haven't seen glass blowing before, Jason has this long glass pipe. I mean, not glass, it's steel. And we'll gather the glass out of the furnace here. It's about 400 pounds of glass in there, molten in its liquid state at 2,000 degrees all the time. And when glass is heated up, it's really liquidy like honey, and you're able to just spool it onto the end of the pipe in a process called gathering. Do you want to add anything about gathering, Jason?
No, that was good. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All the glass in there is clear glass, and since we want to make the bird bath kind of an aqua color, I'm working on getting the color part ready while Jason's getting this little bit. So you can see I have on the end a little bar, a little chunk of glass, and that's the aqua color that you purchase separately, and I'll melt it, and then we'll smear it onto that gather of glass that Jason picked up on the pipe. And that pipe that Jason has right there has a little bubble on it, and it looks glowing orange right now, but that's just the heat inside of it. Once it cools down, that glass will be clear, and the color that I am shaping up there on the pipe that I have is looks really dark when it's the bar, and right now it looks really bright glowing orange because it's hot, but once we blow it out into an 18-inch bowl, it looks really transparent and see-through and bright, brilliant aqua.
So at this point, we're just setting up the color. Kate's going to give it a little reheat. The process is really team-oriented, so together we can make the piece. Separately, it's really hard. Kate's getting that piece nice and hot, so it's moving around a bunch. Grab it over, and we'll drop it on the end of the pipe.
I didn't realize that the pipe like that is as tall as me.
Kate's posture is really good. Allows me to really grab that pipe and cut it off at the same time. And at this point, we're just shaping up that color, making sure it's nice and even. We had a little bit of a color bubble in there, so that's why we did a little reheat to cut it off and then smooth it out again.
Then it looks like we did one more gather on top of that, and this will be all of the amount of glass we're going to use to make that cup that we're going to stuff with all the other colors. Because of coronavirus, COVID-19, we're wearing our masks and using blow hoses, trying to be as safe as possible. But it was hot.
Yeah. It's hard to tell, but Kate actually has the blow hose in her, underneath her mask. You can see her kind of pull it out and then put it back on the bench. And there's just a little rubber end on that hose that goes on the end of the pipe. And then we're able to blow out that piece.
You can see how soft the glass is, how gravity really pulls it down when Jason angles it down. It stretches it out and it elongates the whole thing. And so when I start to inflate it, it'll get even bigger.
We're using just a piece of newspaper to shape, but also to cool off certain areas. You can see Kate threw a little bit of water on there. At this point, we're putting a little jack line in there. Jack line is just a little break point where that glass will actually come off the pipe later.
I can use a pointer to point to it. That's
Yeah.
it right there.
Kate's doing a little inflating while we're putting that jack line in there. Using that newspaper to cool off that break point.
And as the glass is out in the air, it's solidifying as it cools. So Jason's heating it in the hole that is off camera and softening the glass. You can see when he comes back out, it's really glowing again and soft again. It's constantly, shaping it and then heating it and sitting down and standing up, sitting down and standing up.
At this point, we're actually manipulating the bottom of the piece a little bit. We're actually gonna break that end off so we can make it an open area. So right now it's closed off. And the bubble has pressure. You can see Kate still blowing at that point. We're using a tool called the diamond shears and the jacks to create a little break point at the end. Kate's got the tweezers, give it a little tap, and that end piece breaks off. And at this point, there's no pressure at the inside of that pipe. It's just an open end.
So here's the finished cup shape. This is a hole right here that will fill with some other glass, and we'll just put it in a piece of equipment called the garage to keep a constant warm temperature to hold while we get this other stuff ready. This other stuff is called Frit, and it's the different colors that we'll add to add a speckled colored look onto the bird bath. And Jason has his gather there that will roll onto the Frit, and the Frit kind of is glass itself too, and it'll stick to the gather like sprinkles on ice cream.
The client wanted the color to be lightly dispersed. They didn't want it to be as dense as the images that she had shared with us. She almost wanted it to be a little bit more on the clear side. So that's why we spread the colors over the table intermittently so we would get a speckled look.
A lot of getting the special orders and things is kind of interpreting what people's visions are and then creating what's in their head, and that can be tricky sometimes. Sometimes you don't get it on the first try and you have to make a couple of pieces to get it right.
We're using what's called a block to do a final shape up of that glass piece there before we put it into that cup.
The light in the studio is funny how there's like that halo. There's a vent or like a airspace, right? Like a window up top on the roof.
Yeah.
So the light is just really beaming on there, on that block and on your hand. Oh, you're wearing a different mask this time, a different face covering. I didn't notice.
Yeah, because we did the cup
Yeah.
before our meeting.
Okay, so that cup had been in the garage. I'm just going to start warming it up a little bit more, getting ready to bonk it off the pipe so that Jason can stuff this piece into the cup, and I'll knock it off and put it into a stand so he can fill the cup with that glass.
The
There is
reason
a
we
lot. Oh, go ahead. No, I was going to say there is just a lot of back and forth, like Jason sitting down, then I'm sitting down. Jason's at the hole, I'm at the hole. And after working together so long, it's you don't have to tell each other what you're doing, because Jason and I've been working together for over a decade now, and so we just kind of I can see that he's almost done heating, and then I'm going to be ready to go, and you just kind of anticipate what needs to happen next. You don't have to communicate all the time, but you really there is communication involved.
So Kate's knocked that cup off on her own. She had a protective glove, put it into this mold, and then we're gonna take that glass that we had rolled on the marver and stuffed it into the cup that we made previously.
Look at that light on the bench. So this is a different perspective. You can see the hole a lot more and the reheating that's happening. And as the glass is heating up, you're able to shape it up again because the glass is softened and more malleable.
This is just to finally wrap that end piece over the back of the pipe. So a little shaping with that newspaper. You can see it a little better in this perspective. And like Kate was saying earlier, a lot of passing the pipe back and forth. Again,
It's
this
good
is
from
a
this view too. You can see the different tools. So they have different tweezers. These are the diamond shears, and these are the shears. And these are the measuring tools that we use to make sure the diameter and the final piece is the right size that the person wants.
we're using that big metal table. They call it a marver in a different way. This is to shape up that glass, but also to cool certain areas that we really don't want to blow up.
That heavenly glow on the paper.
A lot of times the end of the piece isn't desirable. Sometimes you have some imperfections in the color. So we take that off. We're putting another crease point. And because the glass is so hot, it's really malleable, and we're taking those same shears that we used earlier, and we're just cutting right into that glass piece. And again, Kate's got the blow hose, and she's actually blowing up the piece at this point. You can see at this angle a little bit better how that piece is blowing up right at that point we wanted to. They call it the shoulder of the piece, and that's the area right after the pipe.
Yeah, like right here.
Yeah.
And most pieces, you know, this blob could turn into so many different shapes. This could be the start of, I know we're making a bird bath, which is like a bowl, but this could become anything. This could be a vessel, a vase, a plate, all kind of starting up with the same setup like this.
We got a bunch of different of the shapes of these blocks, so sizes. And this is a little bit larger block, shaping up that piece, using the newspaper and the block. You can't see Kate, but she's actually prepping the hole to make sure that the opening is large enough for this piece to go into.
It feels heavier than it looks, I have to admit.
So you can see she opened up the door on one side, and that way she could put the larger piece of glass into that furnace there.
Yeah, the opening, the biggest it can get is about like 20 inches. So the fact that the bird bath is going to be 18 inches is going to almost fill that open space of the hole. But there's multiple doors with different diameters. So you can keep the heat in there as much as possible if you're not making a big piece.
And again, cooling with the paper on areas we don't want to blow up, so it blows up that shoulder area. This is where the back and forth happens a lot. Kate's got those jacks, and we're gonna create a bigger crease line on this larger piece of glass here.
My feet don't touch the floor either.
So Kate's giving that a little bit of that crease line. I actually gave it a little blow at the same time. And again, we're moving in and out. And again, you can see Kate's grabbing that blow hose to give it a little air so that we inflate that piece a little bit more.
Even with all this back and forth and with the editing, the whole piece took about 2 hours. So we cut out as much as we could of just the reheating and shaping of certain things just to cut it down so you all could see what we're doing in about a half hour's time.
Because we want a squatter shape, this kind of bowl plate shape, we're doing a little bit of a angling up, and that'll actually squat that piece up, turn it into a little bit more of a flying saucer looking shape. You can see the doors a little better as that piece gets wider. Kate's opening up 2 doors now. And by the end, we'll probably have 3 doors open. Just a final squat, and you can really see that shape start to change. It's no longer that ball sphere looking thing. You know, have something that looks a little bit more like a flying saucer. Little shaping, and you can see that bottom start to inflate a little bit. So Kate's blowing on the other side while we shape it up. And now we're opening up 3 of those doors. Because the client wanted this to be sitting on a stump outdoors, as much as we could probably get away with gluing it onto the stump, we're putting a little bit of a nub of glass on the bottom, and that nub will be like a mechanical joint that will stay throughout the years. So a little bit of hot glass, we're wrapping it right around that bottom of the piece, giving it a little shape up. Kate's got a little wooden paddle there to flatten it out. The piece is really hot, so you can see her hands are burning up at that point. You can't tell, but the radiant heat from that glass is really, really hot.
Oh, so this part is the transfer. So this is actually the bottom of the bowl of the bird bath. And then we'll make a connection point right here with another little bit of glass called a punty on the pipe that I'm turning and getting ready right now. And then we'll bonk it off here to open it up. The temperature is really important. You want it to stick, but you also want it to be kind of a pore connection so that it'll actually break off. It's not fused on. So the heat is important.
So Kate's got a rod with a little bit of glass on the end. She shaped it up really specific. And again, like she said, the heat is really key. We don't want that glass piece to bind so hard that it won't come off later. It's almost like a weak connection. We're using those jacks to cool off the crease point that we had made earlier. Putting a little water, that'll shock that precise area. And we actually give it a little tap and that piece breaks right off. Kate's giving it a little reheat. We have to get into that hole pretty quick as the glass was sitting outside of the hole too long. If we stay outside too long, that glass will actually break. And at this point, we're using the paddle to give us some leverage to really straighten out this piece. We want to make sure that opening is in line with the pipe.
Yeah, like this line right here is the opening here is in line with the pipe over there, like a nice straight line from the center of the hole to the center of the pipe.
Yeah, and if it's not, it's really hard, difficult to open up. Cooling off that punny, we're freezing it to make sure that it stays nice and stable. At this point, we're using our tweezers to knock out a little piece of glass that was left from the break off. So gave it a little tap and that piece fell right out. Oh.
Yeah, so that's all there is here on the video. What we ended up doing is this opening, we stretched it out and kind of flared it out into the final bird bath shape, which I can share with you. Let me just see if I can find it here.
Sorry, I thought the end of it had the two pieces. It must have got cut off.
So here's the one view of it. You can see how it's opened up. And let me see if I can also show you the top view. You can see it has the speckled part to it. Once it's on the stump and installed, I'll post another picture of how it looks completed. So yeah, we make commissions. We do custom orders all the time. We've made all kinds of crazy things. People want us, always wonder if we could do, you know, any number of things. Mostly what we do for commissions are corporate style awards. So things with logos and names and things on it. We do that all the time. Paperweights with names for retiring board members and stuff like that. But every once in a while, we kind of get something unique. And I thought this was a fun one.
So that's just a little delve into our process where we're kind of communicating with the client and trying to figure out what they want and make it in the Hotshop. So during the weeks, we have you design it. You want to talk to them a little bit about that?
Yeah. So some of the things that we've been doing on our through our virtual studios, and a really fun one is you design it, we make it, and you could submit a design by sending us an email to info@glassroots.org, or you can DM us on Instagram or Facebook, and if you could submit any kind of design. It could be a sketch on a napkin or something more elaborate, and we'll work with you on seeing how it's possible. We have our flame working studio. We can do fusing and kiln forming. And then we also have our hot shop. And we've been presenting how it's made and putting them up for sale on our online store at shop.glassroots.org. This week, so today, this will be shown on Tuesday, and Wednesday we will be having our Facebook watch party in the evening at 7:30 Eastern time. To watch the GlassRoots experience. If you don't know much about GlassRoots and want to know more about what we do and what our mission is, we'll be watching that. It's about a 15-minute video. And then Thursday, Ellen will be talking with our CEO, Barbara Heisler, about our worker space and more. So stay in touch, and you can, again, join our mailing list by going to info@glassroots.org, following us on Instagram or Facebook, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And we're available for anything you need, commission work, lessons, anything you need. If you are able to make a donation, you can do so by going to our website, www.glassroots.org/donate. And see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.